live. Okay, and we are live. Monday moments, but on a Tuesday. We're throwing everything off, but we're very excited to be here. Hi Susie. Hi Laura.
Well, good to see you today.
Nice. Well, welcome to Monday Meet. Today we're going to talk about anxiety and parenting, which is very exciting. With Laura Smith, who's joining us from the Eudora Community Navigation. And just wanted to let folks know this is being Facebook Live. So if you have questions while you're watching it, feel free to put those in the comments. I will keep an eye on my phone. So if we have any questions come through, we'll try to ask those in real time as they come. Also, if you don't feel comfortable asking the question online or you would prefer a direct response via email, you can go ahead and send us an email. I'll put my email address on the comments as well. So you can just send a quick email and we can get that answered for you offline if you prefer to do it that way. This is recorded too. So if you are watching it on YouTube and you got a question, email me as well. Just to let you know, today we are talking about parenting and anxiety, both of which can be stressful by their very nature. And wanted to give a quick content warning that some of this talk may be a little bit uncomfortable for folks. If you are getting overwhelmed, please feel free to jump off the Facebook and pick up the YouTube where you left off. We'll have that recording online and available. So you can just pick up where you left off if you need a little bit of time to kind of decompress or process anything that you've seen today. So that's all our disclaimers. I think we can go ahead and get started. Susie, do you want to kick us off?
Will do. Hi, everyone. Hi, Laura. We're so excited to have you today.
Hi, Susie.
Why don't you just share for those that haven't already met your wonderful self? Just share a little bit about who you are and a little bit about your parenting and caregiving experience.
Okay, who I am. Oh gosh. So I will I'll give you my title first and then we'll kind of go into my parenting and whatnot. So I am the Eudora Community Resource Navigator. That is my work title. It's through the United Way and it's also through Community Children's Center, and it's a shared funded position. Yeah, so my job and my career circle around hopefully assisting people that need maybe some help with rent or utilities, or assessing situations as they come up. So if there's a community drive that needs to be done, or some sort of donation pickup, that's where I kind of come into play. So that's my position. My parenting, I have two little ones. One was very, very planned for 7 years, and the other one was a complete surprise, and he is 4 years old. So I come with a vast array, both of which actually induce anxiety. So there's there's the plus there.
Well, let's follow up a little bit on the anxiety. So I mean, I know people have it's not a thing where it just starts or stops at certain times. It's a lifelong journey. But if you could maybe talk us a little bit through, like, did you have anxiety before pregnancy? Is it something you've dealt with your whole life, or is it something that kind of appeared as part of parenting? And also then how does that kind of affect it? How does the parenting affected or compounded it?
Yeah. So I have had it my whole life. I didn't know that that's what was happening when I was a child, and throughout the years. I think as I got into adolescence, I started hearing about it, and this was also in the 90s, when I was in adolescence, and so it was early 90s. So it wasn't something that is as well discussed as it is today. And yeah, when I started hearing about it, I kind of started thinking, wait a second, I'm checking all of these boxes and it seems very familiar to me, the questions that are being asked about it. So I started thinking about it then, but then college comes into play and all rules go out the window. And I feel like, you know how when you're about 7 years old and you're very egocentric, you know, like everything's about you, like brain development wise, that's what it's supposed to be. I feel like that also comes back around when you're like 20 and 21. That, at least for me anyway, that's kind of how that happened. And yeah, so no rules then. Fast forward to, I was married when I was 26. So my husband and I have been dating since college. Yeah, when we went to college. And we both, anyone that will meet either of us will say, and it's very kind, but they'll say, you guys are meant to be parents. Like, like we both love kids, and we're kind of big kids at heart, and yeah. So hearing that my whole life, and I always wanted to, I mean, if you asked me what I wanted to be when I was younger, it was either a teacher or a mom, that was just my thing. So when we got married, shortly after, we started thinking, okay, let's try to start our family. And again, anxiety not really playing too much of a part in it at first until that became an issue. Until the family part became an issue. So we went through, kind of chop the story down a little bit. We went through 7 years of infertility before we welcomed our daughter. And that is where the anxiety really started. That I had heard my whole life, you're meant to be a mom, like this is what you're supposed to do. And people, they just have the best intentions, and you have to know that. But inside, when you're hearing that and you just can't, your body just won't do what it's supposed to do, it's hard. It's hard to accept that, and it's isolating because a lot of people don't want to talk about it, and and so infertility and anxiety both share a lot of the same characteristics. They're both isolating. They're both, kind of, you feel shame almost for, kind of possessing those feelings. So that's when it started. And I thought that it was bad then until I got pregnant with London, my oldest, because I had worked for this for so long. I entered this section of life where it was just perfectionism. Everything had to be perfect because I had worked too hard to mess this up, kind of thing. I mean, we're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars. We're talking, I felt like everything was up to me at that point. And a side note, before that, we did get pregnant 3 months before we conceived London with twins, and we lost that pregnancy. So we had tried for years and years, and my body had just been through the ringer. And then to get pregnant, and of course, everyone had been along for our journey, of infertility. So to get pregnant, to, announce it to our family, and to have those emotions and those, everyone cried, everybody, because they had been with us on that journey. And then to lose those babies, was devastating. I mean, it's probably the saddest, I think I've ever been in my life. So then to get pregnant with London 3 months later, to say the anxiety was there is a little bit of an understatement. Yeah, I wanted everything to go perfect. I just, I thought I cannot mess this up again. Too many people are, relying on this. So I gotta do this, so I did everything. I mean, I read every book, took every vitamin you're supposed to, I did everything to a T. Yeah. And then she came, and she was perfect and beautiful and healthy, and this, wonderful baby. And I just couldn't accept that. I went into this weird postpartum depression and anxiety filled life that I thought I don't deserve this kind of thing. I thought, this isn't my plan. My plan is fighting, but she's here, and I'm looking at her, and she's beautiful. But this can't be my baby because that's not my story, kind of thing. So that, each level I thought, okay, this is anxiety, I feel like, and then with pregnancy, I just, got through it, whatever. When she was here, that was when I was thinking, okay, I need to, I need to seek therapeutic services, and I need to look at what that discussion looks like with my doctor about maybe some medication or maybe, lifestyle changes, whatever it was. What does that look like for me? So
So
that
what I heard in that, Laura's, um, that was really kind of a turning point for you and having this new little human and recognizing how anxiety kind of showed up in your world and in some of your daily routines. For
yeah.
someone who doesn't experience anxiety, if someone is watching this, could you help them understand kind of how did it show up? How did it impact you in that daily life as a parent or caregiver?
Yeah. It's tricky because everyone is different, so for me, I went back to that perfectionism. Everything had to be perfect. Compounding this loveliness is that I didn't have the best childhood. And so without going, that's a whole other live session that we could do. So without diving deep into that, I just I didn't want to repeat anything. So that was one of the levels of perfectionism that I was striving for. And my brain knew that that's just not possible. There's no such thing as a perfect parent, or perfect anyone. My heart was not on board. Like it was,
Yeah.
we were fighting for this. So with that perfectionism just came very high tension. I mean, I'm just a calm person usually. But with that, I felt like my blood pressure was through the roof. I felt like I would explode at any second. It kind of came as like, I don't want to say rage, but just anger and just anything could set me off. I wasn't enjoying my baby that I had just fought for nearly a decade, and I wasn't sleeping. Breastfeeding wasn't going well. And so I, again, thought my body was failing me, that kind of thing. It just was a mess. I'm laughing about it now, but that's because I really don't know what else to do. That it's hard.
Yeah. Do you feel that it was different with your son? How anxiety showed up?
Yes.
Tell us just a little bit of.
So Lincoln, my just turned 4-year-old, was a complete surprise. So on the moving back to the infertility part of this story, we were told by my gynecologist and obstetrician that I had a 1% chance of conceiving naturally, and we just weren't. It just wasn't in our cards. We weren't thinking about it. We weren't trying. We weren't, 1% chance. Like, I think that's just what they say because they can't say zero is what I had told myself. Like they can't, the doctor's never going to tell you it's not going to happen. So they gave us that 1% chance. And yeah, so February of 2019, I, took a pregnancy test because all the signs were there. And sure enough, it popped up positive very quickly. And yeah, that again, at that level of, but this isn't the way my life works. Like, I don't just get pregnant. That doesn't work. So I had convinced myself, I looked up all of these things on Dr. Google, who really stay away from anxiety. But I looked up all these things, like reasons for a positive pregnancy test that don't include conception, or what, like I looked up all of these things because I knew there's no way. And if I was, I would definitely miscarry because I didn't take all the proper steps to prepare my body for this, like I had to do last time. And Lincoln's personality, I will just say, like that little boy was meant to be here. And he just has this personality of watch out world, I'm coming through, get out of my way. And that's what his pregnancy was like. I mean, we had multiple medical reasons that he should not be here, all having to do with my body. And he was born, we took him a week early. He was born 10 pounds. I mean, he's just a huge, healthy, awesome kid. But I don't want to say that whole pregnancy. So I would say probably the first trimester, I didn't allow myself to attach to that pregnancy. I was in denial. I thought I had gotten my anxiety kind of under control. Going back to what you had said, Will, in the beginning, is that it's an everyday thing. And some days are higher and some days are lower. And I thought that I had got to a pretty even base, foundation of it. And then Lincoln came along and things got all messed up. But the first trimester, I just didn't allow myself to bond with that baby, which is about as opposite of my personality as you can possibly get. And then the second trimester came along, and thankfully I had a really good OBGYN that said, I know your level of anxiety, and I know that this was totally off your radar. So if you can come in whenever you want for an ultrasound, and that's fine, just as a reassurance. And so I did. So Lincoln was expensive in his own way with doctors with the multiple anxiety ultrasounds that we had. But yeah, the second trimester, I think I finally realized, okay, this is happening, and I want to accept it, and I want to enjoy it this time around. And so I don't know, I can't really explain it. It was probably hormonal, honestly, but I got this sense of peace over me that this is going to be okay. And I'll handle things as they come. I've already been through what I would imagine is the worst I could imagine in my life. And so I'll get through it. And I didn't have to, I didn't have to get through anything. Like Lincoln carried that. And yeah, I mean, and to this day, he's just the best kid.
I really so appreciate your being willing to open up and talk to us about this. I mean, it's such a complex subject, and
Yeah.
everyone, wants their pregnancy to be, perfect, and it's always, kind of devastating for different reasons when it's something completely different. And I know it's not the easiest thing to kind of talk out about, but I really do feel like this is going to be super helpful to somebody down the line who maybe is experiencing anxiety and going through kind of a similar situation. So thank you, Laura, for really being open and honest about your
Yeah.
experience. It's so helpful and so powerful to kind of hear that story. If anybody has any comments or thoughts who's watching, please feel free to leave a note in the comments, a question or a comment, anything you're thinking. If you're watching this recorded or you want a private answer, you can go ahead and give us an email and let us know. Um, I think it's just a broad and complex topic because, like you said, everybody experiences anxiety in their own way, and I think everybody decompresses from anxiety
Yeah.
and comes down from that anxiety in their own way as well. So if you wouldn't mind kind of just giving us a little bit of information on, you had this anxiety going on. If you don't mind talking about it, like how did you and your partner kind of work through that? What strategies did you come up with to kind of help alleviate some of that anxiety? Because it sounds like it was a really difficult time.
Yeah. Um, with me anyway, I think that the biggest thing that I learned about anxiety is, you have this imaginative part of your brain that is responsible for our fun dreams or whatever, and that lets us be creative. But with anxiety, it just gets a little overactive. It gets activated and then it just goes to extremes. There's not really that middle common sense ground. So with me, what helped was activating the analytical side of my brain. So I needed to, for instance, when I know this is not, everybody doesn't have this opportunity. So I was very, very fortunate. But when I asked my doctor, can I just come in just to give me a 5-minute ultrasound or something so I can see that things are going okay? That was helpful that was helpful to me. In everyday life, simple math is a thing that really like gets your mind off of things. And when I say simple, I mean like counting to fives to 500, like stuff that it doesn't take any, like your brain can't help but just do it because you just know it. And so recalling those very, very simple math facts, to me, that's simple math. Now, if you talk to my husband, who's minors in math, he's probably going to do some calculus problem or something for him. but just stuff like that. I'm a person that the more information I know, the better. So, caveat is that does not include Google. What that includes is actual, research or peer-reviewed articles, something, looking at science, looking at, the more I know, the better I felt prepared. And it gave me something else to focus on. I like learning, in general. So it just kind of, fueled that. Um, I don't know. I think the one thing that people would tell me, or even still to this day, even if it's about pregnancy or if it's just about, I don't know, starting a new job or whatever, is people, again, have great intentions, but they say things like, just imagine all the fun things that you're going to get to do, or just imagine, well, to me, that just made it so much worse because that was just activating that creative side again. And I wasn't able to go there. I instead would think, but what if that doesn't happen? Or yeah, but what, and it was just the what if game. And that's not effective for me. It may be for some people, it wasn't for me. So for me, activating the analytical part of your brain or grounding yourself, I know that is getting more well known, thank goodness, but activating your five senses in different ways, hold an ice cube or smell a lemon or taste a lemon, something that's going to really pop one of those five senses, again, is activating the other side of your brain. So it will kind of help you ground yourself and be able to think clearly.
Laura, how did you navigate this with your partner, in that parenting relationship as co-parents? What did that look like as are navigating anxiety as a parent?
It's tricky because again, my husband was my best friend before we even started dating. I mean, and it's one of those things that I feel like, and I usually can tell him anything. Very open with each other. We've been together over 20 years. But when it's anxiety and you have these, whether it's a fear that you have or whether it's almost always bringing out something in you that is not a normal characteristic of you. That, people would meet me and say, there's no way that she has anxiety because I don't have your typical panic attack where you're breathing heavy or it doesn't look like that, but I internalize everything. So he didn't know. And if I wouldn't have communicated that to him, and that took therapy for me to be able to communicate that correctly, because I think there's a way to do it because sometimes it can come off as like a blaming thing, So I think for me, the therapy was able to dive deep inside and think, okay, what's affecting me? And, instead of what it sometimes looks like is, I don't like it when you don't take out the trash, or I don't like it when you don't do the dishes, or this is giving me anxiety. And that's not effective. It's probably not going to, or it's not sustainable anyway. It might get you some instant results, but it won't. Probably not great for the long run. So for me, it was finding out, how to effectively communicate how I'm feeling, and that sounds somewhat easy and doable, but it's hard. I mean, it's really hard. So that was our key. Once I learned how to do that and to talk with him and to say, like this, when this happens, I feel XYZ, or whatever it may be, was extremely helpful because I wasn't blaming anyone for anything. I was owning these emotions, but also trying to validate them and trying to move forward in a positive way. So for us, communication has just been the key, not only to help us, but also because you just don't know, what's going on, and you feel isolated a lot of times when you're having these weird feelings you wouldn't normally have. So just talking with someone, makes you think, oh, okay, this, I found out he has some of the same, anxieties that I do. And I would have never guessed that.
I think it's really interesting what you said about, people not necessarily recognizing anxiety or, not knowing what anxiety looks like. I had a very similar experience where I ended up in the hospital with kind of some high blood pressure because I was having a panic attack. And the nurse was like, "Well, you don't seem like you're anxious at all." And I'm like, "Well, I have had a whole lifetime of hiding this, right? I've had a whole lifetime of not sharing that I have anxiety, and so of course I'm really good at it, but that doesn't change the fact that the physiological response and the physiological action is happening." And so I think that like you said, my partner and I, we work on over communication. That's just the way we it's just the way we handle those situations. Like I had to come to the realization that she doesn't automatically realize that I'm having anxiety. And for a while, I would get irritated about that because I'd be like, "Why don't you understand that I'm in the middle of a panic attack?" Um, but obviously, again, I'm trying really hard not to show it. So that over communication really is a powerful, powerful tool, I think, in handling it and getting through it together with a partner. I feel like we've touched a little bit on this, kind of in your comments and my comments, but is there anything else you can think of or ways in which someone who doesn't experience anxiety can better understand and support a partner who is experiencing anxiety?
Yeah. I think, well, I mean, I personally kind of think that we all have some anxiety about something. That's what makes us human. I mean, you have these fight or flight mechanisms set in place in our brain, for a reason. Like it's normal to feel fear, and it's there for a reason. And it's just with somebody with anxiety, it's sometimes those feelings don't have a solid base, if you know what I mean. Like, not saying they aren't valid, they completely are valid. They just don't have a likelihood of coming true sometimes. But our minds have convinced us, yes, this is definitely going to happen. This is happening. Buckle up. And so I think if you can find, well, and generally, if you can find a commonality with any subject, I think that that's super helpful with people. But with anxiety in general, if you can find a commonality and say, do you remember maybe the way that you felt when you started that job? Because anxiety can look good. It can be excited too. Like your body is still producing those same hormones and same chemicals. It's just coming out a different way. I mean, it's releasing itself a different way. You're excited instead of like fearful. So I think if you can talk to someone and say, this is how I'm feeling. Have you ever felt, it's scared, or like your kind of stomach is in knots, or your chest is tight, or, some of the physical characteristics of anxiety? Have you ever felt that? Say, well, that's what I feel like every day. This is my everyday. And so it's one of those things. I don't, if people aren't experiencing it, I don't, just like anything else, I don't think they can completely relate to it, unless you're walking in those shoes. But if you're not and you don't have it, I think almost anyone can understand, oh yeah, I remember that one time. I think anyone can relate it to it. And the people that truly, care about us and love us will kind of have that lens moving forward, just thinking, oh, I remember this is actually a trigger for her or him, or, or whatever trigger for that person. So yeah, I think just being very open with it, but also just realizing that not everybody's going to get it, and that's okay. I think as a person, if you don't have anything like that, just trying to keep in mind that I have felt scared before. I didn't love it. And that's what this person feels like every day.
I love that piece of finding common ground, because that really just builds empathy within a relationship with another person. And the other thing that you touched on, Laura, is that noticing what's happening in our bodies and
Yes.
being able to name that. My breath is shallow.
Mm-hmm.
My eyes are going back and forth. My arms feel shaky, right? Whatever senses we're having in our body takes away that shame. It's like, this isn't me. This isn't like me as a person. It's not my fault. This is just simply something my body is sensing. Was that helpful for you then, to kind of take some of that shame away and really notice and name what is happening for you?
Yes. Yeah, you're exactly right, Susie. Um, once you can name that, it really does feel like, okay, this is something that's happening to me. It's not something I'm putting out into the world, So how do we navigate that? What's that look like?
Yeah.
When I was little, it was constant stomach aches. Constant. I mean, so much so that my mom actually took me to a GI doctor and we had to figure out, like I did an upper GI or something. I don't know what it was, but I remember drinking some really gross liquid when I was like 7. So whatever that test is, that's what we did.
Yeah.
But, and everything was fine, but I had a lot of stuff going on between 3 and, well, what like 41. So
Yeah.
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 But at that time things weren't talked about, so she just thought I had stomach aches all the time. Now when I see them in London, my daughter, I know what's going on. I mean, she has 2 parents with anxiety. Like I know, I have a feeling she's gonna have some. And she's a very good mix of Dallas and I. I mean, there could not be like more 50-50 mix of a child, I feel like. So she's gonna get it. And it's her stomach ache as well, is what she'll say. My stomach hurts. Now, as an adult, it's interesting because if a trigger hits me, if there's something that hits that takes me back to that 5-year-old Laura, it's stomach aches. Like that's what it is. If it's an adult thing, uh say I have, whatever, like 50 projects that I need to do, and they're all in my head because I haven't had a chance to put them into a computer yet, or whatever it is, to-do list, whatever. That looks different. That's the shallow breath. That's the shite test, or shite tight chest. Shite test. Yeah. That it just looks different because I have a different part of my brain that's trying to navigate that process. Um, it's weird. If like I said, if I have something coming up, like the brain architecture game, it was instant stomach ache, like instant knots, because it was just all of these childhood memories, kind of popping up that didn't make me feel emotionally secure or physically secure. Um, so yeah, but being able to name that, and that's something I didn't learn until I was in therapy. And, she would say, okay, where do you feel it right now? If I was kind of reliving some of those moments, or if we were getting through, some things that were on my plate that day or whatever it was, you have to stop and think. So for one, that calms you down right there. Just being able to stop and like check in with your body and your brain. But you have to really feel, you have to really understand where it's coming from. So yeah, that was a really good point, Susie.
Well, I wanted to pull it out as a piece that our viewers can hold on to for themselves also as they navigate whatever type of emotion might come up, right?
Yeah.
Laura, you meet with a lot of families.
Yeah.
You are a family.
Yeah.
If you were to meet with a new parent, a first-time parent,
Yeah.
what's maybe one piece of advice that you might give them?
I guess I have different pieces of advice for what they're going through. I instantly thought of breastfeeding because just like my pregnancies, just like my children, my experiences could not have been more different. London was, that was a terrible experience, not London's fault, not my fault, just terrible experience. Lincoln, oh my gosh. I mean, like I said, he was born at 10 pounds. So he was like, I don't care what you got, just give me something to eat. So it was a totally different experience. So my advice, if it was anything with that, is listen to your body. And that kind of, yes, it goes with breastfeeding, or I would say listen to your baby, or your child, because no one knows that child better than you. And you're going to doubt yourself because that's what we do. And you're going to think, oh my gosh, I just want them to be a kind human. I just want them to grow up and not be super messed up because of me. Like whatever we do, can you just be a decent human being? But in reality, no one knows that kid better than you. I mean, this is not a slight to men at all or anything, but I carried that child, for 40 weeks. And even if you don't, even if you're, maybe adopting, or maybe it's a surrogate, whatever your journey is, you just have that bond almost immediately. And you got this, like, your child, and you will do what's best for them. It's not easy. It doesn't look great, and it's not a level field. It's a roller coaster, and that's expected. So that's one of the things. The other thing that I strongly recommend is to not read the articles that talk about do this because you're going to miss it. Oh my gosh. I read all of those because I didn't want to mess up, when London was here. You only have 18 Christmases before they're out of the house. You only have so many weekends, those kind of articles. I mean, they're great, but not for somebody with anxiety. Because you're already trying to put these impossible measures on you. And then you read an article that tells you, wait, you're also going to need to add this to the list, and this and this. And if you don't, then you're not a good parent, because, oh my gosh, look, you're going to miss your child's childhood, and that's not true. That's so not true. So I made myself stop. And if I was maybe scrolling on social media, or if I came across them like in an actual magazine or whatever the case was, I just immediately left that area as a form of self-care, because it's not possible. It's not possible to do all the things. And those are probably accepted really well for people that don't experience daily anxiety. But for somebody that does, it's like a dagger, to the heart. It just makes you feel like you're not doing a good enough job. And nobody needs that, because I really feel like every parent does. I feel like we're all doing the best that we can. Yeah.
So listen to your baby, listen
Yeah.
to your body,
Yeah.
and know that you've got this.
Yeah, you got this. Yeah, just do what you feel is right. That's another thing I should probably is that.
Take another hour, y'all, and we're gonna talk about all the advice.
just in general, do what's right for you and your family.
Yeah.
I think that's just a broad spectrum, whatever topic you're talking about. You can't please everyone. And again, your family better than anyone else. So kindly do what is right for your family.
I'm just sitting here just resonating so much with the whole idea of like the expectations versus the anxiety, because as a parent with anxiety as well, like it is very, very hard when you don't feel like you're keeping up with, these sort of things that are made, a lot of times to get clicks or to sell products, right? These rituals that we've kind of put around childhood, the mandatory first day of school photos, which can be a little frustrating if your kid's in a private school that does something a little different, doesn't work quite the same way. Those laying on the blanket every year after year after year, which can be difficult if you have a squirmy kid and an anxiety disorder. All of those things can then become burdens more so than joyous celebratory moments. So I think that idea to just your family's your family, and take that joy in the moments that you can, and the moments that you have that are unique to you and your family. I think that's such a powerful piece of advice.
Yes. Thank you. Well, and yes, I really, just from talking with you, off of this life podcast, I know that you and I have very similar feelings on, a lot of these things. And you're right. Yeah, there's just you're putting unnecessary pressure on yourself. What my tip is for taking school pictures? I do them like a week before. There is no time for that nonsense in the morning. You're heading out. First of all, the sun's probably shining in their eyes, so you get this like squinted, look. They don't want to be up. They don't, they might be excited, but they're sleepy. No, just take them when you
Yeah.
can. If you're going to do them at all, if that's the route you choose, which I do appreciate those, but there's no sense in making it harder than it is.
Hey, I'm not coming down on any of that. I think people who do
Yeah.
that and do it effortlessly, I mean, that is amazing. If it makes you
Yeah.
happy, absolutely. But I don't think everybody should. I don't want that one person out there who's just like, I don't like any of this to feel like it's an obligation or a pressure. It's certainly
Yeah.
not worth it that way. Can we just end with sort of a more general, fun, happy question to bring us sort of up from some of this anxiety talk? What is your favorite thing about being a parent? What do you enjoy about it the most?
Oh gosh. Let's see here. There's so many things that I love about being a parent and just about my kids in general. Um, I like to slow down. This took me a while. So I don't want anyone to think that this is just like, if you have anxiety, I don't want you to think that, oh, this is another thing I should be doing, because it's not. But it took me a while, but just enjoying them for who they are. Like watching them build their own character and their own, like seeing the way that they discover life and our surroundings, and just stepping back. So much of parenting is guiding and instructional, to do whatever, teaching and making sure you don't mess them up, and all the things. But my favorite thing is to just sit back and watch them be themselves, and just kind of be in awe of that. I mean, I have two little miracles over here, that medically probably shouldn't be here. And I really like seeing how they see the world, the aha moments, and aside from that, they're just funny. Kids are funny. So, I mean, it's true. They say the darndest things, that old show or
Yeah.
whatever. I mean, yeah, like the stuff that comes out of their mouth, or even the sweet things, Lincoln, my newly 4-year old, when he cries, and it just like kills me, when he's hurt or when he's sad, that different kind of cry. He'll wipe his tears, and when he wipes them, he says, "I'm wiping away my feelings." And it's like, oh my gosh.
Mhm.
just just those things, that just taking a second to take a breath. And that, I think that's one of my favorite things, is just being present, as far as choosing to be present and choosing to watch them lead the show, like stepping back for a second and just watching them be kids and discovering the world. I hope that doesn't seem too Pollyanna, but that's really how I feel.
Well, the
I think
fact
it's
that you
great.
talked about stepping back
Yeah.
while we're doing a live Facebook recording about anxiety. All right, there's a lot of courage and bravery and work that goes into stepping back. So,
That's true.
I love that. Laura, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah. Thanks.
thank
Thank
you.
you.
Yeah,
Thank you
thank you
guys.
so much, Laura. And if anybody has any questions, and we're a little late for now, but you can send a email to us, and we'll get back to you. And again, thanks so much for joining us. Please join us on Monday, November 13th. We will be back for another Monday Thoughts. Actually, on Monday, we're going to go a slightly different direction with that one. It's our friend Kayla Deer is going to join us and talk about kids and first haircuts. So we're going to
Okay.
have a haircut full conversation. Should be really really fun and really interesting. But thank you, Laura. We really appreciate it. We're gonna spend another session on anxiety and parenting later on down the line, because it is such a broad topic. But I feel like we've covered a lot of good points today, and you've given us some really valuable advice. So thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for reaching out. Thank you just for what you do. You two are two of my favorite humans on this planet. And I appreciate being able to, to talk about this with you, and to kind of just have this conversation and to be able to share it with others and let them know that they're not alone. It's very common. Whether people talk about it or not, it's super common. So just know that it's okay.
Yeah. And that wherever you are in that journey is okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And give yourself grace. It takes
There we
time.
go. I think that's a great outro. Go with grace. We'll
Yeah.
call it there. Well, thank you so much, and we will talk to you soon.
Okay. Thank you both.